Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Mast, and I'm the President and Chief Innovation Officer here at Delvinia, which is a global research tech company. We're back again with our good friends at PersonaPanels. This is the third report on monitoring the interest of virtual millennials during the COVID-19 outbreak. Today, we're going to cover the following. First, we looked at the CDC guidelines surrounding coronavirus and that they don't elicit equal amounts of interest across millennial animated personas. The second thing is, not everyone agrees as to what is the most important when it comes to areas of protection and sickness. And then finally, millennial animated personas have different views with respect to interest and importance, but they do come together, and this boils down to one key insight. So let me turn it over to my friends, and they'll dig a little deeper into this. Over to you, Steve.
Welcome, everybody. Let's begin with an understanding of what animated personas are all about. They're built with machine learning in mind and can represent segments of consumers or any targeted group that is of interest to a company. Many times we'll take a company's segmentation data and then create animated personas, but if those aren't available, we can use other primary survey ways to build animated personas. The key is that while traditional segments are built from data that ages over time and really isn't continually used for research projects for that matter, animated personas always represent data that is current. And in terms of what animated personas can do once they're built, they can look at a company's messages, concepts, and ideas and indicate interest as well as the importance of the specific information being reviewed, right down to the sentence that serves as the key element in the entire piece. It's quantitative in nature with a qualitative flair, with results that can be repeated as often as you want and seen immediately in an incredible, cost-effective way that firmly supports ROI. Today, we're going to take a look at 6 of our animated personas that represent the totality of millennials, or Generation Y. We're going to have them look at the language that sits on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. Headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is the preeminent source of medical information that people seek out on a daily basis, serving as the U.S. Health Protection Agency under the Department of Health and Human Services. In these difficult times, it has been front and center, a critical landing spot for people wanting to understand the latest news with respect to COVID-19. The CDC has divided the information on their website into 2 broad areas: how to protect yourself and others, and what to do if you're sick. We thought it'd be interesting to look at both areas through the eyes of our 6 millennial animated personas in terms of what they find interesting and important, as well as key elements that are rising to the top. Do these millennial animated personas think the same in general? Is one area of CDC information deemed more important than the other? Let's take a look. Mike?
Thanks, Steve. As you can see, we've got our 6 millennial animated personas, from do the right thing millennials on the left, all the way to millennials in name only on the right. They're listed across the top, and down the side, we see the 2 areas that the CDC is focused on: how to protect yourself and others, and what to do if you are sick. Let's start with protection. This area covers everything from information concerning the spread of the virus to details on cleaning your hands, being around others, what to do if you're sick around others, how to properly cough and sneeze, use of a face mask, and cleaning and disinfecting. And in terms of interest in this information, there is a clear-cut leader in the tech geek millennials, fairly young professionals with a high median income, had 73% interest in this information, showing significantly more interest than the other 5 millennial animated personas. Millennial moms are next in line at 47% interest, with the remaining ones lagging behind. Now let's look at the information that is part of what to do if you are sick, including a listing of steps to take surrounding being in your home, getting medical attention, what to wear, caring for others, cleaning high-touch surfaces, monitoring symptoms, and home isolation. And the story is a little different in that this area, broadly speaking, is of greater interest to the 6 millennial animated personas, with each of them being more interested in what to do if you are sick compared to how to protect yourself and others. We see that tech geek millennials continue to be more interested than other millennials, but the gap between themselves and others has tightened up a bit. Overall, in terms of some takeaways, millennials are not uniform when it comes to their interest in these different areas that the CDC has documented. But they do agree across the board that your actions when you become sick holds more interest for them than protecting yourself. We've covered interest among our 6 millennial animated personas, and now we will turn to the importance of the information that was found to be of initial interest to them. In this exercise, we've taken each of the areas, how to protect yourself and others, and what to do if you are sick, and look specifically at the sections that are included in each area. The resulting sections were then analyzed for each area with importance being determined. Let's start with how to protect yourself and others. Among the 6 millennial animated personas, what they found to be most important differed in many cases from one persona to another. For some, knowing how it spread was of the utmost importance, while for others, clean and disinfect, avoiding close contact, and staying at home if sick were mentioned. Interesting that topics such as clean your hands often, cover coughs and sneezes, and wearing a face mask were not overly important, possibly because they fall under the umbrella of common sense. As we move to what to do if you're sick, there's a similar story in that these millennial animated personas do not agree as to what's important to them. While do the right thing millennials, environmental millennials, and don't call me a millennial found the section on staying home except to get medical care to be of high importance to them, other sections were found to be more important to other millennials. As you can see, monitoring your symptoms, home isolation, and cleaning high-touch surfaces achieved importance as well. You can also see the sections that were deemed to be not important, such as call ahead before visiting a doctor, wearing a face mask, covering coughs and sneezes, cleaning hands often, and avoid sharing personal items. Again, possibly because they represent common sense at this point. One final exercise for these millennial animated personas was to move past interest and importance and focus on the key insight that each saw within the section that was most important to them. In other words, when you think about everything contained within a section, whether it's protecting yourself or what to do if you are sick, what is the one piece of information that had a white-hot spotlight on it? What's fascinating is we start to see that millennial animated personas reach somewhat of a consensus when it comes to one key insight. For how to protect yourself and others, for 4 of the millennial animated personas, the key insight was the fact that the virus is thought to spread mainly from person to person. Millennial moms saw a different key element in that for them, it was greater detail about how it can specifically spread. Whereas for environmental millennials, they focused on the best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to the virus. Finally, as we move to what to do if you're sick, everyone was in agreement that following instructions from your healthcare provider was the key insight. We hope the findings produce some interesting insights for you, and most importantly, maybe help you in some small way moving forward. And with that, I'll turn it back to Steve.
Once again, guys, great insights. And hopefully, as Mike just said, this was provided everybody a little bit of help in terms of being able to sort of fight COVID-19. So again, we thank you guys for this. And once again, anybody who wants a copy of this report, just click on the link, send us a note, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that every single week in your email box. And until next week, stay safe and stay well.